Howdy folks, in today's episode of Star Wars Lore, going to be looking at the Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter. The Delta 7 Aether Sprite class Light Interceptor was an advanced version of the Delta 6 Starfighter, a short-range patrol craft with limited firepower, no hyperdrive option, and no astromech droid. The Delta 7, created with input from the Jedi Order, underwent 5 years of testing before KDY considered it ready. There were 3 principal advances between the Delta 6 and the Aether Sprite, beyond simple tweaks to the speed and handling of the sleek starfighter. The laser cannons were massively upgraded by the fitting of 2 TAMCO SDS 8/5 twin laser cannons, a sign of the troubled times and troubled times to come. While neither craft had its own hyperdrive, the Delta 7 could link with a Silur 31 hyperspace docking ring. Lastly, the Aether Sprite had an astromech droid to assist the pilot. Only the astromech's dome remained to show the droid was there. Its other components were fully integrated. Obi-Wan Kenobi had some cause to celebrate the features of the Aether Sprite himself. The Jedi had discovered that bounty hunter Jango Fett had been hired to assassinate Senator Amidala of Naboo. Placing a tracking device on Fett's ship, Slave 1, Kenobi tracked him to the asteroid field surrounding Geonosis. Fett, however, was warned by his son Boba that they were being followed. Fett came out fighting, and Kenobi, who hated flying, had to put the agile Delta 7 through its paces simply to stay alive. Jango dropped seismic charges, but Kenobi's astromech unit detected the bomb as they passed it. Obi-Wan's force-enhanced reactions helped him avoid the storm of flying rock that the seismic bombs created. Now, Fett, who was the superior pilot, was able to get behind his opponent and open fire. Unable to match Fett's heavily armed ship, Kenobi had to rely on speed and maneuverability. Fortunately, the Aether Sprite was able to keep ahead of Slave 1's thundering fire, though only just. With the starfighter being hit by laser fire and chased by an equally agile missile, Kenobi ordered R4 to jettison the spare part canisters. Dodging between asteroids was enough to destroy the missile, and the scattering of parts convinced Fett the starfighter was destroyed. Waiting long enough to be considered dead, Obi-Wan powered up his ship and headed down to Geonosis. Now, though the Delta 7 had been commissioned by the Jedi Order and had been tested and refined for an unprecedented 5 years, Jedi Ace pilot Master Saesee Tiin was not so easily impressed. Master Tiin really put the Delta 7 through its paces, eventually ripping 2 of them to pieces and modifying them to be all he knew that they could be. Taking flight data for Kenobi's encounter with Jango Fett over Geonosis, and feedback from Anakin Skywalker, whose own modifications to his fighter were to influence Tiin's, the Jedi Master began to roll out his final design modifications to almost all Delta 7 fighters in the Jedi fleet, and thus the Delta 7B was born. One of the principal differences between the 7 and the 7B was that the fighter had a full astromech socket just in front of the pilot. And this gave the Jedi greater mission flexibility because, as the partnership of Anakin and R2-D2 proved time and again, having a fully mobile astromech could be of huge benefit to a Jedi. Obi-Wan had his astromech R4P-17 rebuilt so it could join him in his Delta 7B fighter. The Delta 7 had 2 laser cannons, while the 7B took lessons from Kenobi's need for additional firepower over Geonosis and added 2 more. Tweaked shield performance and additional armor plating over key components made the 7B a little tougher than its predecessor, with no noticeable degrading of performance. The 7B was also flown by many Jedi through the majority of the Clone Wars. Anakin Skywalker, in a yellow fighter that mirrored the paint job on his old pod racer, nearly lost his craft at the Battle of Botharir. It was brought home and rebuilt to fly the likes of Ryloth and Malastare. Anakin was frequently backed up by his Padawan Ahsoka Tano, who also flew a 7B with a striking white, red and green paint job, matching the colour scheme of her own astromech R7A7. Now, when the Eta II Actis class interceptor was introduced at the end of the war, Jedi Master Plo Koon refused to upgrade. His fighter, the Blade of Doran, was one he was very used to and it had been a gift from Anakin Skywalker. Koon had no desire to give up a fighter he was well used to. Plo Koon had used it in a decisive attack against General Grievous' flagship, the Malevolence, in the early months of the Clone Wars, and he was still flying it during the cleanup operations on Cato Near Moedia at the end of the conflict when Order 66 was given, and both he and his fighter were destroyed by the clone pilots escorting him. Now, due to their privileged status, Jedi could make use of unique communication software to co-op any local hyperspace transceiver within any given system to send encrypted signals. Though unable to reach the old folks' home, which was the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Obi-Wan Kenobi was able to send messages to Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine from Geonosis because of this. And the landing gear of the Delta 7 ships included a landing claw that allowed the starfighter to clamp onto unusual surfaces, including asteroids. And there you have it. That is the Star Wars lore on the Delta 7 and 7B Aether Sprite starfighter that you see them use in Attack of the Clones and for pretty much all of the Clone Wars TV series. So if you like the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment or two. Let me know your thoughts on the video, and I'll talk to you all on the next one. Catch you later.